My birthday landed on Friday the 13th this year. Written by Morning Beam. Today is Friday the 13th, as I'm sure most of you are already aware. I wanted to share the events that took place today. As such, I've hastily decided to publish my experience here, because I've heard you guys seem to know about this kind of stuff. After you finish reading this, I would appreciate any advice on how I should proceed. I'm a bit desperate here, so I'll try anything. But make no mistake, this story was not written for your enjoyment. I had 3 friends over on Thursday. We had made plans for a sleepover so that we could stay up past midnight and watch horror films. The sleepover consisted of myself, a girl named Linda, a boy known as Lucas, and someone called Tom. Lucas and Tom were my childhood friends. We were best buddies all throughout our lives. And Linda was my crush. Lucas and Tom were doing me a favor. Tom had found a scary movie from the olden days, back when these movies were still sort of scary. Somehow they both agreed to jump at every jump scare and flinch at every bloody death. Why? Think of it this way. If a cat is surrounded by kittens, it'll seem more like a lion compared to them. Linda would be impressed by my bravery, I was sure. You might be wondering how I was able to convince my friends to do this. The answer is, I didn't have to do much convincing. It was a gift for my birthday, which is actually today. September 13th, 2002, the day I was born. September 13th, 2009, the day life the way I knew it ended. Anyway, my plan wasn't as genius as I had initially suspected. Linda was indifferent to the whole thing. Oh well, you can't win them all, I suppose. However, I didn't think you could lose them all either. But apparently you can. After the credits of the movie began to slide down the large screen, I decided that we head on up to my room. I decided to try and make this day at least somewhat fun, and I figured it'd be fun to look up creepy YouTube videos. Sounds boring, Linda drawled. Jacob is the birthday man. We have to do what he says, Lucas shrugged. Gee, thanks, guys. This is the best birthday of my life, I sarcastically replied. Tom smiled at me. Come on, let's check out those videos, he kindly said in an attempt to lift my heavy spirits. Tom was never very strong, and he could hardly lift anything, though. Up to my room we ventured. I flung myself into my chair and flipped my laptop open. When I signed into YouTube, Linda couldn't help but tease me over the name of my account. Reckless Cody 2000? How in the world did you come up with such a stupid username? She cried. Shut up, Linda. I made this account when I was like 9, and I've been too busy to change it, I explained, irritated. Too lazy, you mean? She laughed. I sighed. I spent all night trying to impress her, and she made fun of me. Not once in my life have I possessed a sufficient understanding of a female human. Not once. Whatever. We started off with those traditional top 10 lists. Top 10 creepiest videos, top 10 freakiest websites, top 10 unsolved murders, top 10 most gruesome deaths at amusement parks, top 10 most haunting calls. I'm sure you get the idea by now. We eventually began getting bored of those videos, mostly because the narrator always sounded incredibly uninterested in whatever spooky spooks they were talking about. I found myself scrolling through the comments section of a video as my friends took turns reading the comments aloud. We all shared a snicker at a funny comment. It was a popular video, so it was loaded with comments. We must have gone through well over 100 comments by the time I noticed something out of the ordinary. There was a comment, but it wasn't commenting on anything. There was just a link. No words, explanations, or questions. Click on it, Linda urged from behind. Don't, it could be a virus, Tom advised from my left side. It's the link to a YouTube video. It won't give you a virus, Lucas assured from my right side. I rolled my eyes before dragging the cursor over to hover above the link. A single right click, and then we were in. The video was entitled, "Don't Watch at 3 a.m." I chuckled at that. Either this was ironic, or it was trying way too hard to be scary. Upon pressing play on the video, an image of a person in a witch hat popped up. Their face was concealed by a veil, and they'd been standing so very still that I was certain it was only a still frame. But they shook their head, and it almost made me feel like they were shaking their head in response to my theory of it being a still frame. A distorted voice streamed out of my laptop's speakers and into our curious ears. "Have you kids ever heard of the witching hour?" he asked. And of course, we couldn't answer, so he barely waited before speaking again. 1, 2, 3 is the witching hour. 3 a.m. It's the hour of which magic can be performed. Lucas and I exchanged looks of disappointment. This video was turning out to be super lame. The video suddenly cut to black. A voice rang out.
Linda, Lucas, Tom.
My eyes widened as I heard those names. There's no way that could be a coincidence. "What? How?" Lucas said to the screen, completely dumbfounded. We were all really freaked out by that point. The blackness faded away as another video began to play. My jaw dropped down as I recognized all of my friends in the video. Except they were dead. There was a deep cut in Linda's neck, which was sewed together. But that didn't change the fact that she was clearly dead. Her eyes were open, and yet there was no life in them. Lucas had a hole straight through his stomach, which seemed to be the result of a knife puncturing him, as it was too big to be from a bullet. His eyes were open too, but he was dead. Tom's eyes were missing, and other than that, he didn't have any fatal wounds, but I knew he was dead because he wasn't breathing. Linda dashed towards the computer to turn it off, but I held her away from it. I needed to see where this was going. She cried at the sight as I continued to stare at it. They were moving. I squinted at the screen and managed to detect the faint lines of strings attached to their limbs. They were like human puppets. There was a close-up on Linda as her lips were creepily pulled together into an artificial smile. Then the camera panned to Lucas, who was holding a single flower. Tom was just laying there in the corner like a rag doll. Although it was a corpse, so I don't know what I was expecting anyway. Suddenly, a chainsaw popped up out of nowhere. It dragged along the top of the screen. Whoever was operating the chainsaw sliced Tom's head off. The video cut to a picture of a full moon. That distorted voice was back, mumbling nonsensical facts about full moons. He said strange things happen on days where the moon shall appear full. Things like werewolves, ghosts, and pigs flying. It briefly occurred to me that today was supposed to have a full moon. I turned that nonsense out and turned my attention to my horrified friends. They were crying and screaming about how they're going to die. I had to quiet them down. "Guys, he said all that stuff about 3 a.m., the witching hour. It was for a reason. The video warns against watching this at 3 a.m., so I'm guessing this video shows people what will happen if they check it during the witching hour. Last I checked, it was only 2 a.m., I confidently said. Tom clicked out of full screen mode and looked down to the clock on my laptop. It read 2:59 a.m. His eyes flicked back to the video, and there was about 3 seconds left of it. Hurriedly, he moved to exit out of the window, but it was too late. The clock hit 3 a.m., half a second before the video ended. Their sobbing quickly resumed. "Come on, guys. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about. Don't ruin my birthday over something stupid like this," I told them. Lucas looked up at me with red eyes. "You weren't in the video, Jacob. Of course you're not concerned over it," he hollered. I tried convincing them that there really was nothing to worry about. Even if this video did mean something, then I was sure it could be prevented if they were extra careful about not getting killed. They didn't believe me, instead choosing to continue their factory of tears. I shut my laptop off and led them downstairs to our sleeping bags. We all got in them, but I was struggling to sleep through all their crying. There were even a few screams throughout the night. When I woke up, I was confused to see that none of my friends were in the room with me. Their sleeping bags were there, untouched. I searched everywhere for them, but I couldn't locate a single one of my friends. Desperate, I decided to watch that video again for clues. Maybe it had something to do with it. I logged onto YouTube and went into my watch history. And there it was, the video at the very top. When I clicked on it, the first thing I noticed was the channel's name, Reckless Cody 2000.